Good day, class. Today we're going to be discussing themes and how we will discern and apply our understanding of them to the story To Kill a Mockingbird. At this point, where we just ended part one, so at this time, you are going to be working within your assigned group multiple times to figure out what are the themes based on the broad topic that I have given you. These topics include moral development and courage, social inequality and their damaging effects, innocence versus maturation, goodness versus the evil of humanity, and justice and fair treatment of others. So what is a theme? The reason I want to define this term clearly is so we don't confuse it with general concepts explored within literature. These would be the basic ideas within a work. So here, the theme, you need to understand, it's the common thread, the repeated idea that's incorporated in a literary work. So overall, it's the author's message to the reader. So what you need to consider is there a moral or a lesson to be learned from this story? Obviously, considering I'm explaining theme and we're applying it to Kill a Mockingbird, obviously there are many thematic statements that can be created as we read this novel. And within your group, you should be able to come up with more than even just one thematic statement related to your broader topic. So here's the difference between theme and a subject. The theme isn't just the generic subject of the story or a concept. When we think of theme, we have to think of meaning. What is the author trying to tell us? What did the author mean? What do they have to say about the concept? So here's my example, love. If you were to tell me that the theme of the story is love, I would probably chuckle and have to say, well, sorry, no. Love alone is not a theme. You need to extend that idea further. So, based on what goes on in the story, the characters, conflicts, what they encounter, you need to figure out what is the writer trying to say about love. So, my example here is, perhaps in the end, you would be able to say that love may come when you least expect it. Now, why would you come to that conclusion? Well, most likely, depending on whatever the story this might apply to, based on the situations that the character goes through, a certain experience, maybe by the end of the story they came to this realization. Maybe in the beginning they had an idea that finding love was going to go this way, and then when they weren't even looking for it, all of a sudden it fell into their lap. And hey, what can I say? Sometimes that's how it really happens in life. So know the difference. Theme is the meaning. Don't forget it. So you have your broad topic, and now, based on your examination of the text, you need to be able to develop that concept into a thematic statement. So what you're doing here is you're summarizing the story's message, and what you need to do is make sure that when you write this down for me, you're using at least one or two complete sentences. Don't just give me a list. Don't give me something vague. Please use complete sentences. You are juniors and seniors now. So here are some examples. This ties into what I said in the previous slide. So maybe independence plays a major role within whatever novel you're reading. But it is incorrect to state that the theme of the story is independence. Independence is a concept. That's the abstract idea that's being woven throughout the story. So it is an issue, but independence in and of itself is not a theme. So we may turn this into saying that the theme of this story is that independence is an essential trait for survival. So this one tells us, what is the impact of independence on the story? You know, what can we say about independence based on what goes on in the book? Okay, so now that we've cleared up the difference between theme and a broad concept, how are you going to locate the theme within To Kill a Mockingbird? First of all, it's not going to be obvious. It is very rare that authors, or at least prolific authors, are just going to come out and directly state, hey, this is my message and moral of the story. You're going to have to dig deeper. You're going to have to look beneath the surface of the obvious things that happen. So analyze the layers of clues. You really want to be looking at the characters. So what are the characters like? What are their attitudes? What are the conflicts that are going on in the story that drive the plot forward? This is a really important place to look when you consider what's the theme. So these things are going to reveal what is being said about your concept. Furthermore, here are the places that you may want to look. So these are 6 elements that you want to examine throughout the reading and any time that you meet together as a group. So first of all, the title. To Kill a Mockingbird happens to have a title that in and of itself has a symbolic meaning. In the very beginning, I know some of you made joking comments about, are we going to be reading a story about hunting birds in the woods? Okay, absolutely not. This story has a far different storyline, and we've already talked about some of the symbolic meaning and what the mockingbird represents within the story. As I mentioned before, look at the plot and conflict. The story is bound to revolve around conflicts that are central to the themes. Pay attention to what we consider important statements or quotes by some of the characters. For example, in To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch's words of wisdom to Scout, or I should say both Scout and Jem, in which he's trying to instill a sort of moral or lesson to further develop their thinking. These would be great places to examine in terms of considering, how does it tie into a theme? Once again, look at the characters. Not just what they do or what they're like personally, but what they say. Setting. Before we started reading, we examined the historical context of To Kill a Mockingbird. And knowing that context can really have an impact on understanding, okay, why was this the topic for this story? Why would these conflicts be happening at this time? So, as we mentioned, the Great Depression plays a role. Knowing that this is in southern Alabama, the story would probably be extremely different if we were, if we had the same situation placed in, New York or even the middle of Wisconsin. And then, as I alluded to before, with the title, consider symbols. Okay? Anything with symbolic meaning may support a theme. Okay. This is all I really need to explain in terms of what's the difference between theme and general ideas. So now, here's your task. In your group, your task is to develop thematic statements related to your broad subject based on the storyline. So from this point forward, what you need to be doing is being cognizant while you're reading of when you come across a situation that ties into that broad concept, and how can you possibly further develop that into a thematic statement. So I'm not going to tell you any explanation of what the themes are related to these topics. That's where it's up to you.